Imagine carrying the most valuable treasure in your country straight into the palace of your greatest enemy. The king waiting for you commands the largest army in China. He has broken promises before. He can imprison you. He can kill you. And once he takes the treasure, there is almost nothing your kingdom can do. Would you expect to come home alive? One man did. Not because he had an army, not because he carried a weapon, but because he understood something far more powerful than force: trust. If you've watched our story about the Mianxi conference, you've already met Lin Xiangru. That famous diplomatic showdown made him one of China's greatest statesmen. But years before he faced the king of Qin at Mianxi, another mission had already made him a legend. It all began with a single piece of jade. China was living through the Warring States period. 7 kingdoms competed for survival. Alliances changed constantly. Wars never truly ended. Among them, the kingdom of Qin stood above the rest. Its armies conquered city after city. Its rulers dreamed not of defending their borders, but of ruling all of China. Every neighboring kingdom feared Qin. Among them was the kingdom of Zhao, smaller, less powerful, but prosperous, proud, and home to some of the finest officials in the land. And Zhao possessed something Qin desperately wanted: not land, not soldiers, a treasure, the most famous piece of jade in China. It was known as the He Shi jade. Why was it so valuable? According to an ancient Chinese tradition, generations earlier, a man named Bian, he discovered an unusual stone in the mountains of Chu. To everyone else, it looked ordinary, but he believed an extraordinary piece of jade was hidden inside. He brought the stone to his king. Instead of being rewarded, he was accused of deception. One of his feet was cut off. Years later, after a new king came to the throne, Bian he tried again. The answer was the same. His second foot was taken as punishment. Only under a third king was the stone finally opened. Inside lay a magnificent piece of flawless jade. The king realized that Bian he had spoken the truth from the beginning. The treasure was named in his honor. Whether every detail of this story truly happened remains uncertain. But by the time of Lin Xiangru, no one questioned one thing: the jade's reputation. Every kingdom knew its name, including Qin. One day, the king of Qin sent an envoy to Zhao with an astonishing offer. He would exchange 15 cities for the legendary jade. At first, it sounded like the greatest trade imaginable: one treasure, 15 cities. But no one in Zhao believed the offer. If Qin kept its promise, Zhao would become stronger than ever. If Qin broke its promise, the kingdom would lose everything. The royal court argued for days. Some ministers insisted the jade should never leave Zhao. Others warned that refusing Qin might provoke an invasion. Neither choice seemed safe. The king looked around his court. No one volunteered, until one man quietly stepped forward. Lin Xiangru. He bowed, then calmly said, "If Qin truly gives Zhao the cities, we shall gladly present the jade. But if Qin breaks its promise, I will bring the jade home." The entire court turned toward him. It was an extraordinary promise. Lin Xiangru was not Zhao's greatest general, nor was he its most powerful minister. Yet he was asking to carry the kingdom's greatest treasure directly into the court of its strongest enemy. The king of Zhao looked at him for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. The mission belonged to Lin Xiangru. A few days later, a small diplomatic delegation left Zhao. Hidden inside an elegant wooden case, wrapped in layers of silk, was the legendary jade. Ahead lay the kingdom of Qin. No one knew whether the treasure would ever return. The journey to Qin took many days. As Zhao disappeared behind them, every member of the delegation understood the danger ahead. They were not simply carrying a diplomatic gift, they were carrying the pride of an entire kingdom. At last, they reached the capital of Qin. Its massive walls towered over the surrounding plains. Thousands of soldiers guarded the palace gates. Everything about the city announced the same message. Qin was built to rule. On the appointed day, Lin Xiangru entered the royal palace. The great hall was magnificent. Rows of ministers stood in perfect silence. At the far end of the chamber sat the king of Qin, ruler of the most powerful kingdom in China. His eyes never left the wooden case carried by Zhao's envoy. When the jade was finally presented before him, the king smiled. Slowly, he lifted the treasure into the light. The smooth surface reflected the sunlight pouring through the palace windows. Even the ministers standing nearby could not hide their admiration. The king turned the jade over again and again. Then he passed it to the officials closest to him. One minister examined it, then another. Soon the legendary treasure was making its way through the royal court. Everyone wanted to see the jade that all of China had been talking about. Lin Xiangru waited, patiently, silently. He wasn't watching the jade, he was watching the king. A true exchange should have begun immediately. Maps should have been brought forward. Officials should have prepared documents. The names of the 15 cities should have been announced before the entire court. None of that happened. Instead, the king simply admired the jade. He laughed with his ministers. He praised its beauty, but he never mentioned the cities, not once. At that moment, Lin Xiangru understood everything. The offer had never been genuine. The king intended to keep the treasure and give Zhao nothing. But the king of Qin was studying Lin Xiangru as well. Would the envoy protest? Would he lose his composure? Would fear force him into surrender? The hall became strangely quiet. Neither man made the first move. Finally, Lin Xiangru bowed respectfully. "Your Majesty," he said with a calm smile, "I fear this legendary jade contains a tiny flaw. It is almost impossible to notice. If your Majesty permits, I would like to point it out." The king hesitated for only a moment. Curiosity won. He handed the jade back. The instant the treasure returned to Lin Xiangru's hands, everything changed. Without hesitation, Lin Xiangru stepped backward. One step, then another, until his back was only a few feet from one of the enormous stone pillars supporting the palace roof. He held the jade tightly against his chest. His voice echoed across the silent hall. "Your Majesty, if Zhao has been deceived," he said, "then this jade has no reason to survive." He raised the treasure slightly. "If anyone comes closer, I will smash it against this pillar." The words struck the court like thunder. Several ministers instinctively stepped forward. The king immediately raised his hand. Everyone stopped. For the first time that day, the king of Qin looked genuinely uneasy. The jade was priceless. If Lin Xiangru carried out his threat, Qin would gain nothing. For a long moment, the two men simply stared at one another. Neither blinked, neither spoke. Finally, the king smiled. It was the smile of a ruler changing his strategy. "Bring the maps," he ordered. Large maps of Qin were carried into the hall and unrolled before the court. The king pointed confidently at 15 cities. "These," he declared, "shall belong to Zhao." Many ministers nodded. To anyone watching from a distance, it appeared the agreement had finally been honored. But Lin Xiangru wasn't convinced. Words were easy, promises were easy, maps meant nothing. There were still no official documents, no royal seals, no formal ceremony, no legal transfer of territory. Everything remained exactly as it had been before. The king had changed his performance, not his intention. Lin Xiangru bowed once more. "Your Majesty," he said, "this is the greatest jade under heaven. It deserves the highest ceremony. According to ancient ritual, such a treasure should not be presented immediately. I respectfully ask that Your Majesty first observe 5 days of purification. Only then shall Zhao formally present the jade." The king of Qin looked around the hall. 5 days? He almost laughed. He had waited years for this treasure. Another 5 days meant nothing. "Very well," he replied. "We shall meet again in 5 days." The court was dismissed. The king believed the matter settled. 5 days later, the legendary jade would finally belong to Qin. But as Lin Xiangru quietly left the palace, he wasn't thinking about the ceremony. He was thinking about time. 5 days. That was all he needed. That very night, while the royal palace slept, another mission quietly began. Inside the Zhao residence, the legendary jade was carefully wrapped in layers of silk and placed inside an ordinary wooden chest. Nothing about it suggested that it held the most valuable treasure in China. A trusted courier was chosen. No banners, no escort, no ceremony. The fewer people who knew the truth, the greater the chance the mission would succeed. Before dawn, the rider slipped silently through the city gates. He traveled light. He avoided the busiest roads whenever possible. Fresh horses were prepared along the route. Every delay increased the danger. Every mile carried the jade farther from Qin and placed Lin Xiangru in even greater peril. If the courier were captured, the jade would be lost. If the king of Qin discovered the deception too soon, Lin Xiangru would almost certainly never leave Qin alive. Yet each morning he appeared at court exactly as expected, calm, respectful, patient, as though nothing unusual had happened. The king of Qin suspected nothing. In his mind, the treasure was already his. The 5 days passed. At last, the morning of the ceremony arrived. The palace had been transformed for the occasion. Musicians stood ready. Officials gathered in full ceremonial dress. The royal court expected to witness one of the greatest diplomatic exchanges of the age. The king of Qin entered first. He took his seat with quiet confidence. His ministers waited. His guards stood perfectly still. Then the great doors slowly opened. Lin Xiangru walked into the hall, alone. Every eye followed him. Almost immediately, people noticed something was wrong. He carried no wooden case, no silk wrapping, no jade. The whispers began. The king of Qin frowned. His confidence faded. "Where is the jade?" The question echoed through the enormous hall. Lin Xiangru bowed calmly. Then, in a voice heard by everyone present, he answered, "The legendary jade has already returned safely to Zhao." Silence. No one moved. For a heartbeat, the entire palace seemed frozen. Then the king rose to his feet. His face burned with anger. "You dare deceive me!" His voice thundered through the hall. But Lin Xiangru never stepped backward. Instead, he calmly met the king's eyes. "Your Majesty promised 15 cities. But after I arrived, no cities were transferred. No documents were prepared. No seals were issued. There was never any intention to honor the agreement. If I had handed over the jade, Zhao would have lost everything. The treasure now rests safely in my homeland." The hall remained silent. No minister dared interrupt. Then Lin Xiangru spoke once more. His final words were not loud, but they carried farther than any shout. If your majesty kills me today, every kingdom under heaven will know that Qin values treasure more than honor, and that the promises of Qin cannot be trusted." The king of Qin said nothing. He didn't need to. Everything Lin Xiangru had said was true. The jade was already gone. Executing Zhao's envoy would not bring it back. Instead, it would announce to every neighboring kingdom that Qin's word meant nothing. The strongest kingdom in China could conquer cities. It could defeat armies. But even Qin understood that reputation was another kind of power. Slowly, the king sat down again. His anger remained, but his opportunity had vanished. He ordered that Zhao's envoy be treated according to diplomatic custom. Soon afterward, Lin Xiangru departed Qin. When he finally crossed back into Zhao, the legendary jade was waiting for him, exactly as he had promised. He had entered the palace of the most powerful king in China, carrying the kingdom's greatest treasure, and somehow he had brought it home, without an army, without a battle, without drawing a sword. From that day forward, Lin Xiangru's name became known throughout the warring states. His success also gave China one of its most enduring idioms, returning the jade intact to Zhao. Today, the expression describes completing a difficult mission perfectly, while safely bringing home something precious. But perhaps that is not why this story has survived for more than 2,000 years. People remember it because it teaches something far greater than the value of a treasure. The legendary jade was priceless. Yet in the end, it was not the jade that decided the outcome. It was trust. A kingdom may possess larger armies, higher walls, greater wealth, but once its promises lose their value, even the greatest power begins to weaken. Years later, Lin Xiangru would stand before the king of Qin once again. Their meeting at Mianxi would become another legendary chapter in Chinese history, but the king who faced him there already knew one thing. This was the man who had walked into Qin carrying the most valuable treasure in China and walked out with it. If you want to hear more strange but true stories from Chinese history, subscribe to Imperial Absurdity.